Welcome in. This is Chiefs Chase. My name is Mike Bassano, and thank you so much for joining me as the Kansas City Chiefs are 6-6.
Big discussion during that break on the Chiefs sideline. Hussey and the officials came over to talk to Matt Nagy, Mahomes, Andy Reid about that pick play that was called.
And he's telling Matt Nagy, you get out of here, because he was complaining as well. And here's the play again. He's guarding Worthy. And that's where it's like,
So let's just start talking about the referees, because that's the most frustrating thing you could ever possibly imagine watching on Thanksgiving. I mean, there's no defense for what happened out there. There's no defense for what Hussey and his boys did on that field tonight. You want to talk about a situation where the Kansas City Chiefs were bent over a barrel? That's what it was. And there's nothing you can really do about it. In fact, even the haters, even the Chiefs haters are like, yeah, the Chiefs are getting really screwed tonight. I love this. They aren't denying what happened. They're just enjoying it. And at least I can respect that, Chiefs haters. At least I can respect the fact that you're not even denying the fact that the referees were 100% against the Chiefs, calling phantom pass interference calls all across the board for the entire game to screw over the Chiefs. And you know they did. And you're just going to enjoy that fact. I can at least respect that more than the people who are like, what are you talking about? That one, because it's so obvious. It's so obvious. And they go, well, why would they do that? Well, because the Cowboys are right there. Winning this game is everything for the Dallas Cowboys. They're an exciting team with big star power, and they have the biggest fan base in the NFL. So the NFL is doing everything they can to make sure that the Dallas Cowboys will be there in the end. So that's what the referees were doing tonight. And the fact that Hussey went over to yell at Matt Nagy and Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes when they decided to call an offensive pass interference penalty that didn't happen on Hollywood Brown. And instead of accepting responsibility for their terrible work, they decided to go yell at the Chiefs sideline. That's when you know something's up.
How? How?
There's no reason for an official to take it so personally when somebody says, hey, that was a bad call, unless he's on the take. I'm telling you, what's the other reason? What's the other reason for Hussey to freak out the way that he did and go over to the sideline and start screaming at Matt Nagy like Matt Nagy's not allowed to say words? Unless he wanted to make sure that his fire tamed them down and say, yeah, you don't yell at me like that. You don't talk to me. That's how someone who's full of it talks. That's how someone who's putting you over a barrel speaks to you when you call them out for putting you over a barrel. So I don't believe for 1 second that was a fairly officiated game, and I don't believe for 1 second that the crowd didn't influence calls. How many late flags did we see? How many late flags happened where there's the play, 3 seconds passes, oh, there's a flag. They let the Cowboys sideline call the game. You might as well have. You might as well let the Cowboys sideline call the whole Cowboys-Chiefs game, because that's what was happening. The late flags were disgusting. The flags on big plays were disgusting. And, Patrick Mahomes went out there and balled out.
3rd and 6. Quinnen Williams tripped him up, but he's still going and heaving it down the field. Wide open is Worthy. Unbelievable play by Mahomes. Quinnen Williams had him. Somehow he maintained his balance, and the Chiefs strike a big one for 43 yards. This is right to your point, Tony.
every time you think you got it, almost got him. You said it, almost got him. How many times have we heard that? Even has to fall down to throw this ball.
The Chiefs played a good football game. Not a perfect football game, but a really good game. And the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott has some nice plays as well. They did play well. But they got bailed out. I mean, they got helped every step of the way. And I know a lot of people are going to go, well, that's what happened with the Chiefs. No, with the Chiefs, I could actually point out the penalties that were and the penalties that weren't. With this, we just have a long list of obvious blown calls that even the biggest Chiefs haters can't defend. I could defend almost all of the Chiefs' calls last year, and even going back to the Super Bowl against the Eagles, where the only real issue with that Super Bowl was Fox, because Fox didn't show the angle where Bradbury had a fistful of Juju Smith-Schuster's jersey. And then you could say, well, why call it in that situation? Because he couldn't get out of his break. Because Bradbury had a fistful of his jersey. We just never saw it on the live broadcast because Fox didn't get that angle until later. Or maybe Fox wanted a controversy. You tell me. But that's what that situation was. What this was, look at it from every angle. And thank goodness we have instant replay. Otherwise, Cowboys would have won by even more. If they could have sold that Ferguson touchdown, guaranteed Hussey would have done it. And his crew would have done it because that's the way they were the entire night. Right? Something in motion tends to stay in motion. Thank you, Isaac Newton. And when they're making crap calls all night, if it weren't for the stark video evidence of Ferguson's second foot not hitting inbounds and his knee hitting out of bounds before any other part of his body touched inbounds, they would have found a way to call that a touchdown. They didn't because they had to reverse the call. If it weren't for instant replay, the Chiefs would have lost this game by multiple scores. Thankfully, there is instant replay, so they still had somewhat of a chance at the end. But the Dallas Cowboys are a really good team. They just aren't as good as the Chiefs. That was proven tonight. Flat out proven. Patrick Mahomes, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Let's get his whole stat line up here. I want to see his whole stat line because he put up a gutsy performance, 23 of 34, 261 yards, 4 touchdowns. He was sacked 3 times, threw 0 picks, and he ran for 30 yards. That throw he made to Xavier Worthy, where it looked like Quinnen Williams had Patrick Mahomes dead to rights, and he finds a way to squeeze out of that, finds a way to hurdle over another defensive lineman, and then falls to the ground while heaving a dot downfield to Xavier Worthy. That's the GOAT. That's GOAT play right there. If you wonder why people say Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback they've ever seen in their lives, it's because of plays like that, where nothing's working. The offensive line, the whole line was injured. Unfortunately, the report after the game is that Josh Simmons walked out of the locker room with a cast on his left wrist. So that looks like it's going to be a long-term injury. Jawan Taylor goes down. Trey Smith was already down. So the Chiefs had 2 starting offensive linemen in this game, and really 1.5 because Kingsley's the weak link. When they're all healthy, the left guard, Kingsley, is the weak link of that offensive line. So you had Creed Humphrey at center, who's great. And then you had a whole lot of problems. So Pat had to overcome a lot in order to even be solid in this game. And he was great. So Patrick Mahomes, the GOAT, and the Chiefs in this scenario, I mean, I don't want to say you got to toss the year out, because you don't, not yet. But you have to win out. That's the only way the Chiefs are going to be able to do anything now. You have to win out. Because 11-6 gives you a chance. And even then, they're going to need a little help. Post Malone, they're going to have some help in order to get back into the playoff picture, even if they win the next 5 games and go 11-6. If they lose again, it's over. The AFC is too top-heavy at this point. There's too many teams with too few losses. So the Chiefs, if they want to go to the playoffs in any capacity, have to win the rest of their games. And they don't have an easy schedule. You got the Broncos, Chargers, Texans are playing better. This is a devastating loss because it was in a situation where the Chiefs should have won. Having wins stolen from you when you are right there is devastating. And the Chiefs had their win stolen from them by Hussey and the bunch. That's what I'm calling them now. Hussey and the bunch of losers that sold the game for the Chiefs. Oh, wait. They just threw another pass interference penalty that didn't actually happen. So when you have Mahomes play that well, you have the Chiefs overall play that well, and then that's the result, it's incredibly disheartening. It's hard for me to get over. It's going to be hard for everybody to get over. And there was a lot of tension in this game. And we'll get to George Pickens taking his helmet off here in a second. I don't know what the hell that was. But there was a lot of tension in this game. You could feel it from both sides. The stakes were super high for a Thanksgiving game, which would have been really nice to see it play out. I mean, this game was so well matched. The Chiefs and the Cowboys are both such good teams. When you have 2 teams that are as good as the Chiefs and the Cowboys, you hope that you at the very least get to see a fair game. And you get to see who would really win this game if it wasn't for Hussey and the bunch screwing up the whole game for the Chiefs. Who would have won? I don't know that the Chiefs win this game if it's called correctly. I know they would have had a chance to, as opposed to no chance, which is what Hussey and the bunch gave them. But it would have been good to see a great matchup between the Chiefs and the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day, two super evenly matched teams. I had this as a 3-point game all week, and it ended up being a 3-point game. But I think it could have been a 3-point game the other way had the game been called fairly. But the sad reality of that is we'll never know. We'll never know what this game could have been because that was taken from us as fans. It was taken from the NFL by people who clearly had an agenda to elevate the Dallas Cowboys, who have the biggest fan base in the NFL. When you play the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, it's like playing Notre Dame in the 80s. You can't leave it in the officials' hands. Unfortunate game. Kareem Hunt had a very nice game. 14 carries, 58 yards, averaging 4.1 yards per carry. And he also added one catch for 22 yards that I thought was one of the more brilliant play calls from Andy Reid of the entire season, where they had everybody shift left. They used the aggressiveness, or shift right, rather. They used the aggressiveness of the Cowboys' offense or defensive line to get everybody flowing one way. Boom. Hit Kareem Hunt going out to the left. And then Kareem had a great run. So Kareem Hunt had a very nice game. Patrick Mahomes had a very nice game. Rashee Rice, outside of one drop, 8 catches, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns. You can't be mad at that stat line. I understand the frustration about drops. Kelsey had one, but it was bailed out by an offensive holding penalty because why wouldn't it be? The refs were afraid he was going to catch it. That's what happened, guys. The refs were terrified that Travis was going to catch it, so they threw the flag, even though they didn't have to. It's such trash. It's such trash. But Rice, I know the drop hurts, but he played a phenomenal football game. And I've been, I think, somewhat hard on Rashee Rice this year. The suspension and the way he came back from it, not quite ready, bothered me. Because I thought 6 games was such a gift. Right, based on what he did. He's on 5 years of probation. 6 games after getting 5 years of probation it's very lenient from the NFL. And when he came back and he wasn't quite ready, I was bothered by that. But the last 2 games, he's been a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL, without question. He's been a number 1 top-level guy over the last 2 games. Rashee Rice has a very bright future if he wants it. And that's what it's going to come down to. Can you stay out of trouble, work hard, do the right things, and put yourself in position to be a really good football player and have a lot of things fall your way? He has so much talent, guys. Rashee Rice has Jamar Chase level talent. Rashee Rice has upper echelon NFL wide receiver talent. One of the greatest talents you'll ever see in this league. And I mean that. Sometimes I wonder where his head's at, like when he's driving down the highway in Dallas. But tonight, he had a phenomenal game, and he had a great couple of catches. Speaking of great catches, Hollywood Brown.
Already. Mahomes going to the end zone. Back in the end zone. Caught. Tiptoe. Touchdown. Wow. Hollywood Brown.
That catch in the end zone was the catch of the year in the NFL. The toe taps, beautiful. Hollywood Brown might not be the number 1 wide receiver. He might not be the top guy, but he is without question a great wideout. And that catch by him is one of a few great catches he's had this year. I remember the sideline catch against Jacksonville that set up a game-leading touchdown for Kareem Hunt. He's had some beautiful catches this season. And Hollywood Brown, I think, is an under-the-radar player for this team that has made a massive impact. And I hope they continue to give him the ball as the Chiefs try to win out. Because the playoffs are now. That's what this did. It eliminated all margin for error for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's all gone. You have to win every single game from this point forward. That loss, taking the Chiefs to 6-6, means 11-6 with a little bit of help is going to be their route to the playoffs. Xavier Worthy, 4 catches, 61 yards. He had a pretty good game. Travis Kelce, another pretty good game. 5 catches, 45 yards. But that catch, that touchdown catch, that's top-level stuff. That's what you're looking for from a top tight end in the NFL. I don't think Travis realizes he's old, guys. I think the only people who think Travis Kelce is old are the haters of Travis Kelce. Because Travis Kelce's proven to everybody, not only is he not old or washed, he's still one of the best tight ends in the NFL. And when you need a big play, dial up number 87, and he's going to come down with it, whether it's a big third down in the midfield or a big touchdown on 4th and goal, where Patrick Mahomes gets his only opportunity to try to get the touchdown. On that situation, they went Kareem Hunt, then a direct snap to Rashee Rice, then Kareem Hunt again. Thankfully, they actually went for it on 4th and goal to give 15 a chance to be the GOAT. I mean, you have the generational talent at quarterback. You might want to use him when you have 3 tries inside the 5-yard line. Just a thought. But overall, I thought the play calling was okay. I know that had some blunders here and there, but that's just kind of the deal. I thought that reverse counter was laughably terrible. The reverse counter to Xavier Worthy where he runs in reverse, then they hand him the ball and he tries to run back the other way. He lost 4 yards on it. It was comically bad. But we move on, right? And then we can go through everything, but it's tough when you have a game that you're like, okay, this, and this happened. But in the end, another pass interference penalty. In the end, another untimely flag on a penalty that didn't really look like it happened. And that's why you don't want to spend the whole show or the whole time talking about the referees. But it's hard not to, because look at what they did. Defensively, I think they played a pretty good game. Look, Dallas is the top offense in the NFL. Right? They're the top passing offense and the top offense overall in the league. Shutting down the Dallas Cowboys offense was never going to be a thing. I had this game at 31-28 Chiefs. It ended 31-28 Dallas. I think if you have a fair game called, it probably ends about 31-28 Chiefs. And that would have been a good game. It would have been a good game to watch. It would have been a fun game to watch, and it would have been a fair game to watch. But we didn't get that. We got the sandbag game where even the biggest Chiefs haters I know that I'm friends with are reaching out and they're like, yo, are you seeing these calls against Kansas City? This is great. Devastating to have to deal with that. But you know what? When even the biggest Chiefs haters, even the biggest Mahomes haters, people that say awful things about him for no reason, even when those people are saying, wow, this is hard to watch. The Chiefs are really getting railed by the referees. That's when you know, holy crap, look at what's going on. This is a sandbag game. So I want to talk about other stuff. I want to get into other stuff, but at the same time, it's like, what stuff? I mean, by the 4th quarter, I was so drained watching this game. And I think I speak for a lot of Chiefs fans when I say that, because it felt like no matter what happens, Chiefs can't win, because the referees are going to try to find a way to make sure that even if they pull off some miraculous thing, like a beautiful catch in the back of the end zone by Hollywood Brown, well, then they're just going to take it. They're going to find a way to make sure the Chiefs never get the ball back. And boy, did they ever. It's unfortunate, because that's a team that you would think the Chiefs should have a good shot at beating. And I think they would have if things were called the right way. It is devastating to have the season go the way it has, because even though the Chiefs did get sandbagged in Dallas, they also had other games where they just didn't play well. Losing this game shouldn't have been the second to last nail in the coffin of the Chiefs season, because it's not over yet. The Chiefs can win out and go to the playoffs, but this game shouldn't have been this meaningful. An NFC game in November shouldn't be the difference between going to the playoffs and not going to the playoffs. But the Chiefs were so sloppy early this season, right? In Jacksonville, in Sao Paulo against the Chargers, at home against the Eagles in the home opener. The early sloppiness from the Super Bowl hangover of the Kansas City Chiefs is likely going to be what ends up being the difference in this season. Unless the Chiefs win out, the story of this season was told in the early parts of it, in the first few games, right? They had the win in New York, and they had the win against Baltimore, so they were 2-2, but then you go on the road to Jacksonville and lose. Come home, big Monday night game against Detroit, you're back on track, but then they lose another. When you go out and in Denver, another great example. Denver, in Denver. You go to Denver, you go to play the Broncos. They played uninspired football. The reason tonight is more frustrating is because they played inspired football. They had the energy. They had the focus. When they've come out this way for the entire year, the Chiefs have won. The 5 games the Chiefs lost before Dallas were lost because the Chiefs didn't come out and play inspired football. They came out and looked bored, or they came out and looked like they were sloppy, like they weren't prepared. Against the Dallas Cowboys, the Chiefs weren't that sloppy. They had mistakes, yeah, but those are normal in-game NFL mistakes. They played a solid football game, and then they got sandbagged by Hussey and the bunch. So that's what makes it a little more painful. But at the same time, it shouldn't have come down to this. So that's where the Chiefs do have to take accountability, is that it shouldn't have come down to a Cowboys game on Thanksgiving for the Chiefs to save their season. But they put themselves in a situation where they were 6-5, and they had to win this game in order to have a better than 50% chance of going to the playoffs. Now, it's somewhere in the 40s, but the reality is, looking at the teams ahead of them and the schedules of the teams ahead of them and the Chiefs' schedule, which is not easy. Chargers, Broncos. We can take a look at it right now. I think we're about done with the stats here for the game, right? Before we get to it, let's see. Jamari Conner had a lot of nice plays, but he had a big missed tackle on Javonte Williams that was problematic. That's about it. Jaylen Warren, Nick Bolton had okay games. Jaden Hicks had some nice moments, and so did Mike Edwards. Again, the Chiefs had a really nice game overall. They had big mistakes, but these are like normal mistakes that happen throughout a game. They didn't come out and play uninspired football like they did in Denver. They didn't come out and play sloppy, terrible football like they did in Sao Paulo, Brazil, against the Chargers. This was a game where the Chiefs played pretty solidly throughout the game, and they had some miraculous plays by Patrick Mahomes, by Hollywood Brown, by Jalen Watson on the interception. I mean, they had a lot of great moments in this game. One big issue they had, though, one we talked about on the midweek blitz, something they had to do that they couldn't quite get done, was get great pressure on Dak Prescott without blitzing. That's one thing, man. They just didn't get it done. Chris Jones got there some of the time. Furious George got there a little, but he couldn't finish. And Dak was very good today. You have to give credit there. Dak was very good at evading the blitz and finding the open man. And we'll look at the Chiefs' schedule here in a second, but before I forget again, I want to touch on this. Pickens taking his helmet off. It should have been 15 yards, I think, but I also don't know. I think the first down would have stood, right? So I think it was over either way. I'm pretty certain of that. But even if it was, I don't know, man. The helmet taking off stuff, that, whether it's right or wrong, that's fine. I'm more concerned about the pass interference penalties that were thrown 3 seconds after the whistle was blown, when the Cowboys sideline and some of the fans made some noise because Hussey and the bunch have no idea what they're doing. Or, even worse, they know exactly what they're doing. So those are the ones that frustrate me more than the helmet coming off for Pickens. That was just stuff like that. I don't even think it should be a penalty, right? It started being a penalty because of the Miami Hurricanes in the 1980s always taking their helmets off to celebrate. They had fun, man. Watch the U. It's the best 30 for 30 of all time. But at the same time, I don't really care that much about that stuff. Oh, you took your helmet off, whatever. Oh, it's against the rules. But it doesn't affect the game that much in that moment. The pass interference penalties in the pivotal moments of the game, offensive and defensive, that were not pass interference penalties, those were the ones where you go, this game is out of hand and out of reach because of the officials. And that's what was frustrating, more so to me than Pickens with the helmet off. So let's take a look at the schedule for the Chiefs, shall we? Where do they have to win out? What do they have to do? We gave a little bit of a breakdown of it, but let's give a real breakdown of what this schedule is going to look like going forward, because this is a game I just throw away. I mean, what do you learn from the game? I don't know that Hussey and the bunch should be excommunicated from any professional sports league. Other than that, I don't got a lot. But they have the Texans next week, right? December 7th. Chiefs have the Texans on a long week, Sunday Night Football. And then they have Chargers the week after that. Another tough game. However, both of those games are in Kansas City. Then the Chiefs go to Tennessee. And that should be a very good, winnable game. But at this point, can't take anybody lightly, especially if Hussey's over there making the call. And then Broncos at home on Christmas night. And then the Raiders at the end of the season, January 4th, to be determined on the time there. But so it's Texans, Chargers, Titans, Broncos, Raiders. And we talked about the Texans, the Chargers, and the Broncos already. Those are your three tough games, right? You expect to beat the Titans on the road. You expect to beat the Raiders on the road. The upside for Kansas City is that all of their tough games for the rest of this season, they're at home. They have to win out, right? But their only two road games are the Titans and the Raiders. Their home games are the Texans, the Chargers, and the Broncos. So it's not some pie-in-the-sky idea for the Kansas City Chiefs to win out, considering especially how much better they've played at home this year than on the road. So it's not an impossible idea. It's not even that unlikely of a possibility for the Kansas City Chiefs to win out, considering their schedule and considering who they get at home. And in the playoff hunt, they're competing against both the Texans and the Chargers. I think the Broncos are a little bit out of reach, but if they beat the Texans and the Chargers, that'll give them tiebreaker over the Texans. It'll improve their standing against the Chargers and obviously hand losses to both Houston and Los Angeles. So don't get too discouraged in this moment, knowing that the Kansas City Chiefs, yeah, they have to win out to make the playoffs at 11-6, but they have a very good chance considering their schedule and where the tougher games are played. All three of the games against teams that are above 500 at Arrowhead. In the two road games, they're against the two worst teams in the NFL, the Titans and the Raiders. So there is a lot still left for the Chiefs. I don't want to get too discouraged about this because as insane as it sounds, we'll just win out. Well, there's a road for that because of how well the Chiefs have played at home this year. Right? They played the Colts at home. They did very well. Obviously, Raiders and Commanders and Lions. Those were three great home games right in a row that they won all three. The Ravens at home took care of business. The only home loss the Chiefs have this year is against the Philadelphia Eagles in the second game of the year, which was a Travis Kelce drop away from being a win. So the Chiefs still have a pretty significant chance to go to the playoffs here. I think it's in the 40% area, but yeah, that's when you're 6-6. 40% is awesome. When you're 6-6, a 40% chance to make the playoffs is a gift from above that we should love forever. Because that's what the Kansas City Chiefs have now. And you know what? Don't count them out. Because the second you start doing that, man, the second we lose that faith, it's a problem. So I have faith the Chiefs can win out because look at their schedule. The three tough teams are in Kansas City. The two road games are the Titans and the Raiders. There's a lot of chance for the Kansas City Chiefs. And with Patrick Mahomes playing as well as he is, betting against the Chiefs would be a very poor idea. I know they have to win out, but they have some favors there. The number one thing to keep in mind is that Patrick Mahomes went out through 4 touchdowns to 0 interceptions, played all levels of guts and glory in Dallas and had a phenomenal performance. And that's on the heels of another phenomenal performance. So just keep letting Pat carry this team. Throwing for over 350 against the Colts, throwing 4 touchdowns to no picks against the Dallas Cowboys. Keep that train rolling. Keep rallying around number 15. And the Chiefs have a shot. And that shot's more legitimate than a lot of people are going to give them. Keep that faith strong. And I know it's short, but, when you get screwed by the refs, it's a short show. So this has been Chiefs Chase. That's all I got for you. I mean, we can dive into a bunch of stuff. Is there anything else I haven't touched on? Isaiah Pacheco came back. He averaged over 5 yards a carry. 3 carries, 16 yards. That's good news. They're letting him back in slowly because with the type of injury he had on his knee, if you give him too much too early, it'll be a bad thing. So it's nice that they gave Isaiah Pacheco the 3 carries they did, and I thought he looked very good. Despite he was coming back from an injury, I thought he looked nice. So I was very into what Isaiah Pacheco was able to accomplish tonight. I think that was a good thing for him. And that was the only one I missed. The only player I missed discussing, the only situation I missed discussing that was truly impactful for this game. Chiefs lose 31-28 in a sandbag game in Dallas on Thanksgiving. So what is left now is for the Chiefs to essentially become the Avengers, win the next 5 games, get a little bit of help, and make it to the playoffs. This has been Chiefs Chase. I'm Mike Bassano. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your time with me and talking about this Thanksgiving loss for the Kansas City Chiefs. I appreciate you. I'll be on the socials. We'll be doing all the stuff. And, thank you so much for taking your time to listen to this show, listen to me, and spend a little bit of time hanging out with me because I'm going to do this forever. The Chiefs could lose the rest of their games for the rest of their lives. I'll still be right here talking about it and probably yelling at Hussey and the bunch every single week if I have to. Thank you so much again. Have an awesome rest of your holiday weekend, and I appreciate you more than I could ever possibly put into words.